Decades ago, colonialists worked hand in hand with local leaders to develop inflexible customary laws that evolved into new structures and forms of domination, and deployed various legal and policy structures around maternal health and hygiene. Traditional customs were reconfigured to introduce new taboos and stigmas. Women's sexuality was medicalized and reduced to reproduction. A new script steeped in colonial, moralistic, anti-sexual, and body-shaming edicts were inscribed on the bodies of African women, and with it an elaborate system of control. Sexuality, motherhood, and marriage then became matters of public policy. African governments were at the forefront in the regulation of women. This topic looks at how historically and culturally government mechanisms have aided in controlling and restricting maternity. We are hoping to discuss not only how laws and policies have set boundaries to the lives of women, but also how the category of woman and mother has come to be seen as needing special regulation. What we're hoping to do is to speak to women whose reproductive choices have been interfered with and not been supported by reproductive health legislation. We would like to gather stories on the effect of this, talking to women who have come back from maternity leave to find that they were fired or had no access to breastfeeding rooms, for example, or adolescents who can't get reproductive health information and ended up pregnant and stigmatized due to simply a lack of knowledge. By having these conversations, we are shedding light on the effects of maternal regulation and the quality of life of women. And we are hoping that these stories and discussions will help influence policymakers and legislatures to change some of these restrictive laws.
I once hinted that I needed a place to, I would need space. And then, you can have all the space you want. We can exit the room and give you space and all that. Yes, but no, there was no. Yeah, the men understood that I had to breastfeed. I had to express my breast milk, but they just didn't know what to do about it. And if you try and guide them, you notice that over here I might be playing with my employment status, so let me just back off a little bit. So what we are doing at WISE, we are also advocating for women to be given lactation rooms and also their lactation breaks as well. So the lactation rooms should be fitted with comfortable sitting space and a fridge, at least those two items. My name is Judy Oyamo Koech. I am an advocate of the High Court. Apart from that, I am also a director at the Women in Safety Excellence, which is an association of women working within the security sector. Apart from that, I'm also a union representative. Yes, I do quite a lot in terms of women and also low-income workers. Now, with women specifically, I do quite a lot of advocacy on issues to do with sexual harassment in the workplace, on issues to do with conducive work environment. Currently, we are pushing for women in security to be issued with proper maternity wear as part of their uniform. They do face quite a lot of challenges. The uniform that they're issued with are usually standard. They are the same as the male uniforms. Most lady askaris, you'll find that they're wearing the same uniform that has been issued to their male counterparts, just that in different sizes. So you will find that they have an issue with the bust allowance. You'll have an issue with the hip allowance. Sometimes when they're given skirts, they're given the straight skirts. So those with hips, with wide hips, they have quite a serious challenge because they can never fit, or if they fit, the skirts keep on riding up. They end up being accused of dressing indecently or also exposing themselves to sexual harassment in the workplace. So what we are advocating for is conducive workwear. It's so simple, yet it's something that people don't know they do not have. Apart from that is also now sexual harassment in the workplace. And unfortunately, the law is so narrow. It's so difficult to prove sexual harassment, number one. And number two, it is extremely difficult to prosecute sexual harassment as a criminal offense in Kenya. The Sexual Offences Act is now it governs how sexual harassment is handled from a criminal perspective. However, the threshold of proving criminal liability is quite difficult, because once you have been sexually harassed, you go to the police station, you have to demonstrate that this is either a public officer or somebody who has authority over you, who has sexually harassed you. So if it's a co-worker, if it's a subordinate, if it is a client, then it does not lead to criminal culpability. Then after proving that it is a public officer or somebody who has authority over you, you also have to prove that there was a detriment you suffered on account of the sexual harassment. So if this public officer does not deny you a public service after sexually harassing you, then you don't have any complaint. If your boss, somebody with authority over you, does not give you that promotion or continues to pay you and continues to give you the benefits that you've always had after your encounter of sexual harassment, then it does not lead to criminal culpability. So that is what the Sexual Offences Act does. If it is a lecturer and the lecturer continues awarding you the marks as though he never harassed you, then you cannot raise a criminal complaint. Now, that is the main issue with the provision that is given by the Sexual Offences Act. Now we have the Employment Act. What the Employment Act does, unfortunately, it does not mention the punishment that one has to be given should they be found culpable. It does not even talk about how much you should be paid should you have suffered such infringement during your employment. And it only states that it's only your colleague or your boss who can sexually harass you, but it does not protect you from what happens between when you left home to go to work. For example, if your boss puts you in a position whereby you will be sexually harassed. I have a brief narrative of what happened to me. My boss introduced me to a client, my former boss introduced me to a client as Uyu mrembo wetu. After introducing my male counterpart, the male advocate, as wakili. So what happened from then on, the client will find it so easy to text me suggestive messages. The client will find it so easy to grab me by my waist when talking to me. So I found that it wasn't the client's fault. It is how I was introduced. I was introduced in a manner to suggest that I am there for pleasure. But the laws does not protect me from such an encounter. I started off as a conveyancing advocate. That's a purely commercial advocate dealing with land matters. I was in Eldoret. I started practicing in Eldoret. That's where I was posted by the firm that I worked in. So I moved to Eldoret, stayed there for 2 years. Now in 2015, my boss was so excited with the work I was doing, and he was so happy that he increased my salary. He doubled my salary. So in 2015, I called my husband, who was working in Kisumu at the time, and I called my son, who was studying in Nairobi, and told them, now we need to build a future together. We need to all move to Eldoret, because now we can actually afford to be together, all of us. They all came to Eldoret. We got a beautiful house. I called them in. Come January, I called my bosses and told them, now we need, actually I didn't even call them. There was one of the partners who was visiting, and I told him that, by the way, in 6 months' time, you'll need to bring in somebody because I'll be on maternity leave. So he's like, yeah, congratulations. So yes, your family. I told them, yeah, my family, everyone moved to Eldoret and we'll be settling here. So he told me, okay, fine. But after informing him that I would be going on maternity leave, that was the last time I ever saw a salary. Like that month was the last time I ever saw a salary. So the next month, I think they sent half my salary like 2 weeks late. Then after that, there was no salary till I had to come to Nairobi to beg for my salary. They're like, why are you begging? And your husband is a rich man and your parents are well off. And I was like, what the hell? How dare you tell me? How dare you ask me why I'm begging? Because it was because of this job I brought in my whole family here. My husband quit his job to come and join me here. So anyway, we had that discussion with him, and I also notified him that I'll be going on maternity leave in 3 months' time. So 2 months later, I gave birth. I gave birth quite early. So I gave birth, and when I was in hospital, that's when I made my application for leave. 2 weeks into my maternity leave, 3 weeks into my maternity leave, I was sent for a letter of termination on account of redundancy. The firm is stating that since November, they've really not made much money. Yet, to me, that was the month that I even got a salary increment. And I remember ranting on Facebook. How can they do this to me? I forgot that I was an advocate who knows the law and knows that this is wrong, and it's so simple. If somebody violates you, easy, go to court. But as an advocate, I had forgotten that. All I was doing is ranting. So nothing really happened at that point. So the next thing I had to do was now gather my family and bring them to Nairobi, where the rest of my family is. And at least in Nairobi, we are sure that with a hustle, you'll be able to make it one way or another. So we moved from, they paid me my redundancy dues that was the only thing they did. It was just my severance pay. That's the only thing they paid. And that's what I used to move the family to Nairobi. Good thing is that things worked out. My husband was able to find us a nice home, was able to facilitate so many things happening here and there. And during that time, after giving birth to my son, that time reflecting, that time being broke, that's the time I was like, I'm done being this kind of lawyer who just chases money. I'm not doing that for myself or for anyone anymore. I have to do things for other people. So immediately I set up a firm. And the firm, I didn't have any clients whatsoever. But I sat down with my husband and told him, we're going to face tough times because I'm not going to be contributing anything. In fact, I'll be spending some more money from our homestead because I want to give free legal representation to any woman who has been terminated from employment on account of sexual harassment or on account of their maternity condition. So what I did, I sued my former employers. The matter is still in court. Now, the main issue is that the court process is tedious, even to myself as an advocate. We've had several mentions of that matter. We are yet to get a hearing date. So it's 3 years now down the line and still no hearing. So yes, the law is there. Yes, there are those who break it. And yes, the process of getting redress is also quite tedious. But we thank God that there is a process of getting redress, however tedious it is. I've been to other countries where they still can't mention women issues or even breastfeeding in media without being gagged. Yes, it's like a curse word or something, mentioning anything to do with breasts, mentioning anything to do with maternity and giving birth. So I can say that Kenya, we are quite progressive, and with vocal women like myself and others who are emerging, and we are many of us, we shall see that our daughters will not face the same detriment as we have. That is one thing I can assure you. I'm not leaving this earth without making sure that our daughters here in Kenya will have a better time than we have. These are women issues. We know our issues. As women, not only should we be given a seat, it is our obligation to have that voice. So yes, men can be invited to the table, but women have to have that discussion. Women have to be able to demonstrate to the men, and the men not making laws by assumption. It's not an easy thing to have all these changes going on, and it is not an easy thing to sit back and listen to men argue. I heard whatever was being argued, and I was in shock, and I was happy that we have the position of women representatives. And it's those women representatives who stood up and actually argued as I would have argued about the reproductive health bill. And I wish that we were more of us seated there and talking about it, more than just a handful of women being given audience by a whole parliament of men. And I would wish that we do not rely on our laws, but what is inherent in all human beings, and that's goodness. I would also want us to embrace the whole concept of being open about our sexuality, in embracing our reproductive health bill. It's coming. The whole discussion started in 2014 when the bill was introduced, and it has never seen light of day in our parliament. And as women, we need to stand up. We need to say, no, since you refuse to talk about it, leave the table. Let us sit down and talk about it. Let us pass this act, with or without you. We need to have this act done because it's something that touches on our womanhood, on the decision on what to do with this, our bodies, with how to make our lives much easier. And that the burden of womanhood is no longer a burden. Let us embrace and celebrate monthly periods. Let us embrace and celebrate adolescents turning into adults. Let us embrace and be able to talk about the beautiful nature of sex and the beauty in giving birth and the hassles and baffles of going through different medication just to get a human being into your life. Let us be able to talk about that without having any impediments on us. When it comes to advocating for women, we need to advocate for each other more. I have seen women associations now coming up, women in different industries coming together to push for a certain agenda that affects them in their industries. And it's a good initiative. At least women are finally sitting down and having that meeting that we've always been saying that we need to sit down and have a meeting. Now, in our communities, we also sit down and need to have that meeting. We need to sit down and talk openly about the issues that affect us. We need to be able to sit down with our women representatives and tell them that these are the laws we want you to pass. We need to elect more women leaders so that the MPs that are in parliament are not only the women representatives. Let us also have members of parliament, apart from now the women reps, who are also advocating for our laws. Otherwise, we'll end up disappointing ourselves and letting men draw for our daughters laws that are neither here or there, that do not help us at all. Laws like the Sexual Offences Act on sexual harassment, which states that it's only a public person, a public officer or a person in authority who can violate you. And apart from that violation, you also need to suffer death treatment. If I'm at work and somebody grabs me, yes, that's already sexual harassment on its own, because what does it do to me? It takes something away from me. It makes me not comfortable to continue performing as I would have performed. It makes me become a victim. And if I cannot do anything about it, because the legislators who sat down and said that if you are grabbed and nothing else happens, when ikelele tu ndio unapiga. No, that is wrong. That is why we need women to sit down on that table and talk about these issues and say that this is how it is going to be. That these are the laws that we need to protect us. So yes, there's need for having women in that dialogue, in that conversation. And it is time to actually catalyze women issues. It is time to now have that talk. Yes.